You're on the ground, again. You thought this time would be different, but here you are, face in the dirt, dreams feeling broken, that familiar voice whispering that maybe you should stay down. But listen closely. The story isn't about how many times you fall. It's written in the space between the fall and the decision to rise. One more time. Everyone talks about success. They show you the highlight reel, the finish line, the trophy, but nobody shows you the dirt, the blood, the moments where they were so broken they couldn't see a way forward. They don't show you the 7th fall. They just show you the 8th rise, and they make it look easy. Let me show you the dirt. Let me show you the truth. Falling isn't failure. Falling is data. It's the universe giving you feedback in the loudest, most painful way possible. Every time you hit the ground, you learn something new about gravity, about your footing, about the path you chose. The fall tells you what doesn't work. It eliminates options. It narrows the path. Most people misunderstand this. They think the fall is the end of the story. They hit the ground and they start writing their obituary. I tried. It didn't work. I guess I'm not cut out for this. They let the fall define them. They internalize the impact. They become the person who fell instead of the person who learned how to fall. You need to change your relationship with the ground. The ground isn't your enemy. It's your teacher. It's the hardest, most honest teacher you'll ever have. It doesn't care about your feelings. It doesn't care about your excuses. It just gives you the brutal, unvarnished truth. What you did didn't work. Now what? Look at any great invention, any great story, any great life. It's built on a foundation of falls. Thomas Edison didn't find 1,000 ways to succeed. He found 1,000 ways to fall. He found 1,000 ways the light bulb didn't work. Each fall taught him something. Each fall eliminated a possibility. Each fall brought him closer to the one way that would work. Your life is the same. You are not falling away from your destiny. You are falling toward it. Each impact is shaping you. Each bruise is teaching you resilience. Each moment on the ground is giving you a choice. Will this be where your story ends, or will this be the turning point? The world wants you to believe that successful people don't fall. That's a lie. Successful people fall more than anyone else. They fall because they're trying things that haven't been done. They're walking paths that don't exist yet. They're building bridges while they're crossing them. Of course they fall. They're pioneers. Pioneers fall into ravines. They get lost. They face setbacks that would make ordinary people turn back forever. You are a pioneer of your own life. You are mapping territory that no one has ever seen before. Your potential, your dreams, your unique path. Did you really think you wouldn't fall? Did you really think it would be a smooth, straight line from where you are to where you want to be? The fall is proof you're on the right path. If you're not falling, you're not trying hard enough. You're playing it safe. You're walking on paved roads that thousands have walked before. There's no discovery on a paved road. There's no growth in the safe lane. So you're on the ground. Good. That means you're in the arena. That means you're fighting for something. That means you dared to try when others dared only to watch. Now feel the ground beneath you. Really feel it. The coldness, the hardness, the reality of it. This is where you are, not where you were, not where you hope to be. Here, on the ground. Accept it. Don't rush to get up. Don't immediately scramble and pretend the fall didn't happen. Lie there for a second. Breathe. Let the shock wear off. Let the pain register. Let the disappointment wash over you. This is a sacred moment. This is the moment where most people quit. This is the moment where the story gets written. In the quiet, painful stillness after the fall, you decide who you are. Do you see the ground as a tomb or a launching pad? Do you see the fall as failure or feedback? Do you see yourself as broken or as being rebuilt? Your answer to these questions determines everything. Not your talent, not your luck, not your circumstances, your relationship with the ground. I'm not going to tell you to get up yet. We'll get to that. First, I need you to make peace with the falling. I need you to understand that falling isn't the opposite of rising. It's part of the same motion. You can't rise without falling any more than you can breathe out without breathing in. They're a cycle, a rhythm. The Japanese have a proverb. Fall 7 times, rise 8. They don't say try not to fall. They don't say only rise if you fall gracefully. They assume the falling. It's a given. It's part of the process. The rising is what matters. The getting up one more time than you're knocked down. You've been counting wrong. You've been counting your falls as defeats. Start counting them as lessons. Start counting them as steps. Start counting them as proof that you're in the fight. The first time you fall, you learn about the obstacle. The second time, you learn about your approach. The third time, you learn about your weaknesses. The fourth time, you learn about your resilience. The fifth time, you learn about your commitment. The sixth time, you learn about your why. The seventh time you learn that you're still here, that you can take it, that the ground hasn't swallowed you, that your spirit isn't broken. And the eighth time you rise with knowledge you didn't have before, with strength you didn't have before, with a determination that has been forged in the dirt. So you're on the ground. Congratulations, you're exactly where you need to be. Class is in session. The ground is your teacher. The fall is your lesson. Now let's talk about what happens next. Let's talk about the rise. There are 2 people lying in the dirt right now. One is a victim, the other is a warrior. They're in the same body, on the same ground, feeling the same pain, but they're having completely different experiences. The victim is cataloging their injuries. They're counting their losses. They're replaying the fall in slow motion, analyzing every mistake, every misstep, every piece of bad luck. They're building a case for why they should stay down. They're gathering evidence that the world is against them, that they're cursed, that this just wasn't meant to be. The warrior is taking inventory. They're assessing the damage. They're checking what still works. They're feeling for broken bones, but also for unbroken spirit. They're not asking, why me? They're asking, what now? They're not looking for someone to blame. They're looking for a handhold to pull themselves up. Which one are you feeding right now? Which voice are you listening to? The victim voice is loud, it's dramatic, it wants sympathy, it wants to be right about how hard everything is. It wants permission to quit. It speaks in absolutes. This always happens to me. I never catch a break. Everything I touch fails. The warrior voice is quiet. It doesn't have time for drama. It's focused on survival, then on victory. It speaks in questions. What can I salvage? What did I learn? Where's the next foothold? It doesn't care about being right. It cares about getting up. You have both voices inside you. Everyone does. The fall activates them both. The impact shakes loose the victim and awakens the warrior. And then you have to choose which one gets the microphone. Most people choose the victim. It's easier. It comes with immediate rewards. Self-pity feels comforting in the moment. Blaming circumstances relieves you of responsibility. Quitting gives you instant relief from the struggle. The victim offers a cozy blanket of excuses to wrap yourself in while you lie there. The warrior offers nothing but more work, more struggle, the certainty of more falls. The warrior says, get up, it's going to hurt, you're going to be scared, you might fall again, do it anyway. No wonder people choose the victim. The victim is reasonable. The warrior is unreasonable. The victim makes sense. The warrior seems crazy. But here's what the victim doesn't tell you. That cozy blanket becomes a burial shroud. That relief from struggle becomes a life sentence of mediocrity. That excuse you wrap yourself in becomes the chain that keeps you on the ground. The warrior tells you the hard truth. The only way out of the dirt is through it. The only way to stop falling is to rise so many times that falling becomes irrelevant. So how do you starve the victim and feed the warrior? How do you switch the microphone? First, you change your language. The victim speaks in permanent, pervasive, personal terms. I am a failure. Everything is against me. This always happens. The warrior speaks in temporary, specific, situational terms. I failed this time. This specific thing didn't work. I can try something different. I am becomes I did. Everything becomes this one thing. Always becomes this time. Do you see the difference? The victim identity is fixed. The warrior action is flexible. One traps you, the other frees you. Second, you change your focus. The victim looks backward at the fall. They analyze it to death. They want to understand exactly why they're on the ground. The warrior looks forward at the rise. They want to understand how to get up. One is obsessed with cause, the other is obsessed with solution. You don't need to understand why you fell to get up. You just need to get up. The understanding can come later when you're back on your feet. Right now in the dirt, all that matters is the next movement. Third, you change your question. The victim asks, why is this happening to me? The warrior asks, what is this teaching me? One question leads to a pity party, the other leads to a lesson plan. Every fall has a lesson embedded in it. Every impact contains information. The warrior is a student of the fall. They examine it not to blame, but to learn. They treat the dirt as a textbook. Here's what you need to understand about the warrior inside you. They're not fearless. They're not superhuman. They're not immune to pain. They're just more committed to rising than they are to being comfortable. They've made a prior decision that no matter how many times they fall, they will rise one more time. That prior decision is everything. It's made before the fall. It's made in the quiet moments when you're not under pressure. It's the decision that says, my identity is not someone who doesn't fall. My identity is someone who always rises. When you make that decision in advance, the fall doesn't change who you are. It just activates who you've already decided to be. The warrior doesn't emerge in the dirt. They're revealed in the dirt. They were there all along, waiting for the fall to call them forth. Right now in the dirt, you have a choice. You can listen to the victim's reasonable, comforting, logical arguments for staying down. Or you can listen to the warrior's unreasonable, demanding, illogical command to rise. I know which one feels right. I know which one feels safe. But I also know which one leads to a life of regret and which one leads to a life of strength. The warrior in the dirt looks ridiculous to everyone else. They're bloodied. They're bruised. They're struggling to get up when any reasonable person would stay down. They're the fool who doesn't know when they're beaten. But history is written by those fools. Change is made by those fools. Legends are born from those fools. You have a warrior in your dirt. I know you do. I can feel them stirring. I can feel them getting tired of listening to the victim's excuses. I can feel them gathering strength for one more push. Give them the microphone, starve the victim, feed the warrior. The instructions are simple, but they're not easy. When the victim says stay down, the warrior says get up. When the victim says it's too hard, the warrior says do it anyway. When the victim says you've fallen enough, the warrior says once more. This isn't about positive thinking. This is about identity. Who are you? Are you the person who falls and stays down? Or are you the person who falls and rises? The person who falls and learns? The person who falls and grows? The warrior's power doesn't come from never falling. It comes from the absolute certainty that no matter how many times they fall, they will rise. That certainty transforms the fall from a catastrophe into an inconvenience, from an ending into a comma. You're in the dirt. The warrior is waiting for your command. What's it going to be? The real fight isn't against the obstacle that tripped you. It isn't against the circumstances that knocked you down. The real fight, the only fight that matters, is happening between your ears. It's the battle for what you believe about yourself in the moment after the fall. Your mind is a battlefield, and right now there's a war raging. On one side, the army of defeat. They're well trained. They've been with you for years. They know all your weaknesses. They have familiar, convincing arguments. They wear the uniforms of past failures. They carry the weapons of old doubts. Their general is the voice that says, you knew this would happen. You should have listened to me. Just stay down this time. It's easier. On the other side, the army of resilience. They're newer, they're less organized, but they have one advantage. They fight for your future, not your past. They carry the weapons of lessons learned. Their general is the voice that says, "You've gotten up before, you can do it again." This fall is different from the others. This time you know more. Which army is winning in your mind right now? Most people don't realize this is a battle they can influence. They think their thoughts just happen to them. They're passive spectators to the war in their head. They watch as the army of defeat marches in and takes over, and they think, "Well, I guess that's just how I feel." No, you are the general of both armies. You are the one who gives the orders. You are the one who decides which troops get reinforced, which strategies get funded, which general gets the resources. Every time you replay the fall in your mind, you're sending reinforcements to the army of defeat. Every time you think, "I always fail," you're giving them better weapons. Every time you compare yourself to people who seem to never fall, you're building their fortifications. Every time you think, "What did I learn?" you're sending reinforcements to the army of resilience. Every time you remember a past rise, you're giving them ammunition. Every time you focus on the next step instead of the last fall, you're building their morale. This battle is won or lost in the small moments, in the microseconds between thought and reaction, in the quiet space where you choose which thought to entertain and which thought to dismiss. The army of defeat uses guerrilla tactics. They don't attack in broad daylight. They sneak in. A subtle thought. Maybe this isn't for you. A quiet whisper. Everyone is probably laughing at you. A reasonable suggestion. Just take a break. A long break. A permanent break. The army of resilience needs to be more direct. They need to be louder. They need to be trained to recognize the sneak attacks and counter them immediately. Here's your basic training. Here's how you retrain your mind to win this battle. First, recognize the enemy thought patterns. The army of defeat has specific strategies. 1. Catastrophizing. This fall ruins everything. My dream is over. 2. Personalizing. This happened because I'm not good enough. Binge permanence. I'll never get this right. I always fail. 4. Comparison. Other people don't struggle like this. They're just better. 5. Shoulding. I should be further along. I should have seen this coming. When you notice these patterns, that's your red alert. That's the enemy crossing the border. Don't ignore it. Don't engage with it. Recognize it for what it is, a strategy to keep you on the ground. Second, deploy counterthoughts. The army of resilience needs specific responses. 1. Against catastrophizing. This is a setback, not an ending. What's the actual damage? 2. Against personalizing. This happened because of specific actions, not because of who I am. What were those actions? 3. Against permanence. I haven't figured this out yet. What can I try next? 4. Against comparison. I don't see their falls, only their rises. My path is my own. It'd be against shoulding. I am where I am. The question is where I go from here. These aren't affirmations. These are tactical responses. They're not about feeling better. They're about thinking clearer. They're not about denying reality. They're about defining reality on your terms. Third, control your attention. Your attention is your most valuable resource in this battle. Where you place it determines which army gets stronger. If you're staring at the ground, at the dirt, at the evidence of your fall, you're feeding the army of defeat. If you're looking for a handhold, for a way up, for a lesson in the fall, you're feeding the army of resilience. Your attention is like sunlight on plants. Whatever you shine it on grows. Shine it on your failures, and they grow bigger in your mind. Shine it on your possibilities, and they become more real. Right now, your mind wants to dwell on the fall. It wants to analyze it to death. It wants to understand exactly how you ended up here. That's natural, but it's not helpful, not while you're still on the ground. The time for analysis comes after you're back on your feet. Right now, you need action. You need movement, even if it's small, even if it's just shifting your weight, even if it's just turning your head to look for a way up. Action changes the battlefield. Movement changes the chemistry in your brain. When you take even the smallest action toward rising, you send a message to both armies. We're not staying here, we're moving forward. The army of defeat hates action. They want you paralyzed in analysis. They want you frozen in regret. The army of resilience thrives on action. Every movement gives them strength. So here's your order, General. Move something, anything. Push yourself up to your elbows. Roll over to your side. Get to your knees. Find one thing you can do right now that represents rising, even if you're not fully up yet. The battle in your mind will continue, but now it has a different context. Now it's not about whether you should rise, but how you're rising. The decision has been made. The movement has begun. With every inch you lift yourself off the ground, the army of resilience gets louder. The voice that says, "You can do this," gets stronger. The memory of past rises becomes more vivid. The battlefield of your mind is where your destiny is decided. Not in the external circumstances, not in the obstacles you face, in the thoughts you choose to believe in the moments after impact. You have two armies. You are the general. The orders you give today will determine who wins not just this battle, but the war for your life. Which army will you send into the future? The one that remembers every fall, or the one that remembers every rise? Choose wisely, then give the order to advance. Let's talk about why you're still here. Let's talk about why, after all these falls, you're still trying. Let's talk about what's worth all this dirt, all this blood, all this struggle. Because if the falling was pointless, you should quit. If the pain was meaningless, you should stay down. If this was just random suffering, any sane person would walk away. But it's not random, and you're not insane. You're here because somewhere deep down you know there's purpose in this pain. You know this struggle is shaping you for something. You know these falls are preparing you for a rise that matters. The 8th rise isn't just about getting back up. It's about getting up differently. It's about getting up stronger. It's about getting up with purpose. Every fall strips away something: pride, illusion, comfort, certainty. It scrapes off the superficial layers and gets down to what's real. It asks the hard question, how badly do you want this? Is this worth bleeding for? Is this worth looking foolish for? Is this worth failing for again and again and again? Your answer to that question, not in words, but in action, in the decision to rise one more time, that answer defines you. That answer reveals your purpose. People talk about finding their purpose like it's a treasure hunt, like there's a map somewhere that leads to a shiny, perfect thing that will make everything easy. That's not how purpose works. Purpose isn't found, it's forged. It's hammered out on the anvil of repeated failure. It's tempered in the fire of struggle. It's revealed in the moments when everything in you wants to quit, but something deeper says once more. Your purpose isn't what you do. It's who you become in the process of doing it. It's the person you're forced to become by the falls, by the rises, by the stubborn refusal to stay down. Look at your falls not as interruptions to your purpose, but as expressions of it. You're falling because you're reaching for something beyond your current grasp. You're falling because you're trying to grow. You're falling because you refuse to live small. That refusal, that stubborn, unreasonable, beautiful refusal to accept limitations, that's the seed of your purpose. The world needs people who understand the dirt. The world needs people who know what it means to fall 7 times and still believe in the 8th rise. The world needs people who have been broken and put themselves back together, stronger at the broken places. Your purpose isn't waiting for you at the finish line. Your purpose is carried in your heart every time you choose to rise. It's in the grit between your fingers as you push off the ground. It's in the fire in your eyes as you look at the obstacle that knocked you down and say, again. Let me tell you what happens when you find the purpose in the pain. First, the pain changes. It doesn't disappear. It doesn't even necessarily lessen. But it means something. It's no longer just suffering, it's sacrifice. There's a world of difference between pain that happens to you and pain you choose for a purpose. When you understand your falls as part of your growth, as part of your training, as part of your story, they become bearable, they become meaningful. The same fall that would destroy someone else becomes fuel for your next rise. Second, your patience expands. When you're just trying to avoid pain, you want quick results, you want the shortcut, you want the easy way. But when you understand that the pain itself is part of the process, you develop endurance. You're willing to fall again if it means rising stronger. The 8th rise isn't impatient. It knows that 6 falls weren't enough. It knows that 7 falls taught what 6 couldn't. It trusts the process. It understands that timing is part of the training. Third, your compassion grows. When you've been in the dirt, you recognize others in the dirt. You don't judge them for falling. You don't give them useless platitudes. You extend a hand. You say, "I know this ground. Let me show you how I found a way up." Your greatest gift to the world won't be your success. It will be your empathy. It will be your understanding of struggle. It will be your blueprint for rising that you can share with others who are where you've been. This is the purpose in your pain, to become someone who can lift others because you know the weight of the ground. Right now you might not see it. From where you're lying, it might just look like dirt. It might just feel like failure. But I need you to trust me. There is meaning here. There is purpose in this exact fall, in this exact pain, in this exact moment of decision. The 7th fall feels different from the first 6. It's heavier, it's more discouraging. It makes you question everything. That's by design. The 7th fall is the final test. It's the universe asking, do you really mean it? Is this really your purpose? Or were you just playing? Your answer is in the rising, not in the feeling, not in the confidence, in the action, in the physical, gritty, determined action of getting your hands under you and pushing up. You don't need to have all the answers. You don't need to see the whole path. You just need to know that this rise matters. That this particular getting up, when everything in you says stay down, this rise is writing your character in permanent ink. History remembers the 8th rise. It forgets the 7 falls, but you won't forget. You'll carry them in your bones. You'll carry them in your wisdom. You'll carry them in your compassion. And when you're finally standing on solid ground, looking back at the path of falls and rises, you'll understand. You'll see how each fall prepared you for what was next. How each impact strengthened you for a greater impact. How each moment on the ground taught you to appreciate the sky. Your purpose isn't out there somewhere. It's in here, in the heart that keeps beating when the fall knocks the wind out of you, in the spirit that refuses to be broken, in the will that chooses rise after rise after rise. You're not falling randomly. You're being prepared, you're being shaped, you're being forged for something that requires this exact training, this exact resilience, this exact understanding of the dirt. So embrace the purpose in the pain. Thank the ground for its lessons. Honor the falls for their teaching. Then rise, not in spite of the falls, but because of them. Rise because you now know what you're made of. Rise because the world needs people who understand that falling isn't failure, it's preparation. Your 8th rise is waiting. It's the most important one yet. Because this isn't just about getting up. This is about becoming. This is it. The moment that makes all the other moments matter. The 7th fall is behind you. The dirt is beneath you. The decision is in front of you. The 8th rise. It won't look like the first rise. That one was hopeful, naive, full of energy but empty of wisdom. It won't look like the 3rd rise. That one was stubborn, angry, fueled by frustration. It won't look like the 5th rise. That one was weary, doubtful, but mechanically persistent. The 8th rise is different. It's conscious, it's intentional. It's not a reaction to the fall. It's a declaration of who you are. The 8th rise knows the cost. It remembers every impact. It carries every bruise. It understands that getting up means risking another fall. it does it anyway. The eighth rise isn't hoping this time will be different. It's making this time different. It's applying every lesson from every fall. It's moving with the wisdom of 7 impacts. The eighth rise isn't pretty. It's not graceful, it's gritty, it's messy. There's dirt under your nails. There's blood on your knees. Your clothes are torn. Your hair is a mess. You look like someone who's been through hell. Because you have, and you're still rising. This is what resilience looks like. Not a shiny, perfect, never-fall resilience. A battered, bruised, been through the dirt and back resilience. A real resilience. A tested resilience. So how do you execute the eighth rise? What does it actually look like in practice? First, you accept where you are, completely. You don't pretend you're not in the dirt. You don't minimize the fall. You don't rush to get up before you've learned what the fall has to teach. You look around. You take inventory. You acknowledge the reality. I am here. This happened. This is the situation. Second, you find your leverage. The ground isn't uniform. There are places where you can get a grip. There are handholds. Maybe it's a small win from before the fall. Maybe it's a lesson from a previous rise. Maybe it's the memory of why you started this in the first place. You find that point of leverage. You dig your fingers in. Third, you engage your core. Not your physical core, your spiritual core, your center, your why. The deep, non-negotiable reason that makes all this falling and rising worth it. You connect to that. You remember who you're doing this for. Your future self, your family, your purpose, your dreams. You let that core strength engage. Fourth, you push, not with explosive, unsustainable effort, with steady, determined pressure. You understand that this rise, like the falls before it, is a process. It might take time. You might need to adjust your grip. You might need to try different angles. You persist. You push through the burning muscles, through the voice that says, this is too hard, through the memory of previous failures. Fifth, you rise in stages. You don't go from flat on your back to standing tall in one motion. You get to your elbows, then to your hands and knees, then to one knee, then to your feet. Each stage is a victory. Each inch off the ground is progress. You celebrate the micro-rises within the larger rise. Sixth, you find your balance. Once you're on your feet, you don't immediately start running. You stand. You feel the ground beneath you, the same ground that you were just lying on, but now it's supporting you. You find your center of gravity. You adjust to being upright again. You take a breath. You acknowledge, I'm up. Seventh, you look forward. Not at the obstacle that tripped you, not at the path behind you littered with falls. Forward, toward the next step, toward the continued journey. You don't dwell in the dirt even though you've just left it. You orient toward where you're going. Eighth, you take that first step. The rise isn't complete until you're moving forward again. One step, then another, maybe slower than before, maybe more carefully, but moving, progressing, advancing. That's the eighth rise. That's the rise that changes everything. Because after you've risen 8 times, you know something fundamental about yourself. You cannot be kept down, not permanently, not ultimately. The 8th rise creates a new reality. Falling becomes temporary, rising becomes inevitable. This doesn't mean you won't fall again. You will. The 9th fall is probably waiting somewhere up ahead, the 10th, the 20th. Life doesn't stop throwing obstacles just because you've learned to rise. But now you know the pattern. Now you understand the rhythm. Now you have evidence, 8 pieces of hard-won evidence that you are a riser. That getting up is what you do. That resilience is who you are. The 8th rise transforms your identity. You're no longer someone who's trying to succeed. You're someone who rises. Success becomes a byproduct of that identity, not the goal. The goal becomes the rising itself. The continuous, stubborn, beautiful choice to get up one more time. So here's your call to action. Not for someday, for now, for this moment. You've fallen. We've talked about it. We've examined it. We've found purpose in it. Now it's time. Get up. Not tomorrow. Not when you feel ready. Not when the conditions are perfect. Now. Find your leverage. Engage your core. Push. Rise in stages. Find your balance. Look forward. Take that first step. Do it with all the dirt still on you. Do it with the bruises still fresh. Do it while you're still tired. Do it while you're still scared of falling again. The eighth rise isn't for when you're at your best. It's for when you're at your worst. It's for when every reasonable argument says, stay down. It's for when quitting makes perfect sense. Do the unreasonable thing. Do the thing that defines you. Rise. The world is watching, not to see if you fall. Everyone falls. The world is watching to see if you rise, and how you rise, and what you become in the rising. Your seventh fall is part of your story. Your eighth rise is your legacy. What will your legacy be? Will you be remembered as someone who fell 7 times, or as someone who rose 8? The answer isn't in your past. It's in your next action. It's in the decision you make right now, in this moment, with the dirt still fresh beneath you. I know what you're capable of. I've seen your resilience even when you haven't. I believe in your eighth rise, even if you don't yet. Now prove me right. Prove yourself right. Get up. Fall 7 times, rise 8. Make this your eighth. The rise that changes everything starts with a single decision, that you will not end your story in the dirt. Make that decision. Then rise.